We've had over 1,000 new subscribers this month. Thank you all so much, those of you who have joined us here at Bengals Breakdown. But let's keep it going. We are 205 away from 5,000 total on the channel. You want more free Bengals videos? You want more watch parties? Then subscribe right now. We're going to begin with a doozy here. Davante Adams trade rumors are around. Not back. It's the first time they've been here. Matt Lombardo, who is not good. I want to make that clear. There is laid out 6 teams that could trade for Davante Adams. All really weird names, like the Niners were on there, the Cowboys were on there, and the Bengals were on there. Now, Adams is unhappy. And I know you have 3 wide receivers. I know. Bear with me. I'm not saying you have to go trade for him, but it's fine to have various conversations around players who are superstars who may or may not become available, and at least money-wise, actually are kind of viable from that perspective. So, first, why are these rumors popping up? Here's what Adams said after week 3. I don't want to act like it's all crazy. It's week 3, but I don't got time to wait around. It's not a personal thing. I mean, it is a personal thing, but it ain't just about me. It's not my mentality to take all season and try to figure it out. To use these early games like this to establish an identity, and we're not doing things the right way to establish winning culture early in the season, we got to do something to turn that around. That's a lot for your receiver. That's not a ringing endorsement of your situation in Vegas. Remember, Adams wanted to go to Vegas to play with Derek Carr. Derek Carr got traded. That's fine if you're winning. Vegas ain't winning, and they're not like that close necessarily either. So he's unhappy in Las Vegas. There is a scenario, mainly if Vegas goes to ownership and says, trade me, I'm done, get me out of here, that maybe it actually could end up happening. So I wouldn't be very happy either if I were in the shoes of Davante Adams. But does that mean the Bengals side of it actually makes sense? Or is it still kind of asking way too much out of your football team to go out and trade for a superstar wide receiver when you already have several on your roster and the money and all that stuff? There's a lot to unpack here, but, Matt Lombardo used to be a fan-sided lead, so it's worth mentioning, I suppose. Do you want to trade for Davante Adams? Y for yes, N for no. This will be today's pinned comment. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. We got to talk money to start here. The Raiders would save about $6.79 million. The number actually drops as the year goes on because it's the base salary you're saving some of there. The Bengals owe around $6.5 million. Now, the Raiders also lose cap space next year, which I do think makes this unlikely. But if you treat it as a rental, and then either look to move on from Adams and flip him for whatever, or, not pay T. Higgins, and instead say maybe, actually, we're okay. We can find a way to pay Davante Adams the guaranteed, it's less than $20 million he's owed next year. Feasibly, it is doable, although you would have to trade Tyler Boyd. That's the first thing you do. If you're taking on Adams' salary this year, you got to move on from Boyd. And I do think the Bengals would be open to paying $20 million to Davante Adams, which is less than what he's owed next year anyway. I think they'd be open to that. Now, what you would have to do here in reality is keep Chase, trade Boyd now, because you're not going to pay $9 million to a fourth-string receiver, and then let Higgins go or trade him next year. And maybe there's even a scenario out there where whatever you give up for Adams is fairly comparable to what you would get back for Higgins. Different timings, but it's not the actually craziest idea from a feasibility standpoint. It would be a departure from the Bengals' typical MO, and there'd be draft picks involved, and they need those draft picks, but the idea of a short-term Chase, Higgins, Adams unit, once Joe Burrow gets fully healthy, that's terrifying for opposing defenses, isn't it? That is up there with some of the most fun you'd be able to have on the football field. Adams, again, has been really great over the course of his NFL career. You can almost pencil him in for double-digit scores and somewhere between a healthy season, 1,500 yards, and he's trending on that pace again this year. I mean, it's pace numbers, they're ridiculous, but I mean the dude's averaging over 100 yards per game, and he's averaging a touchdown per game. That's really good. What it would cost though? Adams is older, but we're not very far removed from the Packers getting a first and a second for him in a trade to Vegas. I think if the Raiders did shop him, they would be asking for, at minimum, a first-round pick. And I think that's the main deal breaker for Cincinnati. You can explain it away from a value perspective on the talent level, making the money work, making the receiving room work, but the draft capital, unless you have a really good plan of what you're going to do with Higgins, makes it very, very tough. In the end, I think it's more of a Madden-style trade than anything else. Now, today's show is made possible by GameTime. You can get last-minute tickets from GameTime. It's the best spot to go. They've got all-in prices, so you see your entire total up front. You know what deal you're getting if it's a great deal without those hidden fees. They're all up front. You can buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. And when you download the app today, create an account, and use code NFLChat, you get $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms do apply, but create your account, redeem code NFLChat by going to the bottom of the app, click on the profile, redeem code, boom, NFLChat is in there. The game time guarantee means you will always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. That's a pretty awesome deal, folks. So go get the app today and use promo code NFLChat for $20 off your first purchase. That link and the promo code will be in the comment section and the description of today's video. Let's talk trading for Kareem Jackson. Bleacher Report has suggested the Bengals trade for Jackson to replace Nick Scott, with the argument being coverage woes, which I don't know if they do these articles before Sundays because they only had the first 2 weeks of stats, and we'll get to the Denver. They allowed 70. The safety gets some blame there. We'll talk about Dax Hill later today, too. I love what Daxton Hill has done this year. He has been awesome for Cincinnati. And I understand some semblance of frustration that exists around Nick Scott. I also don't think he's been that bad. Let's pull up the stats then, folks. The numbers so far this year. Jackson does have an interception, and the pass breakup is part of that. Nick Scott's got more tackles because they tend to pay a little bit more on the interior or near the box. Daxton will rotate, but Hill's been the deep safety. The big argument from Bleacher Report as part of this article was, Nick Scott's got a high passer rating allowed. Kareem Jackson's higher. And I don't think passer rating is actually a good way to determine how good someone is in coverage. There's a lot going on there to kind of evaluate it. But if we're going to cite one statistic as to why player A should be replaced in favor of player B, doesn't that statistic need to show the other one is better and not worse? It's like saying, Joe Burrow is not accurate. He's only completing 65% of his passes. They should go get a quarterback who's more accurate, like Zach Wilson, throwing 63% of his passes. What? The math ain't math in there. You're fine at safety. Your defense is good. No, do not go trade for Kareem Jackson. I'm sure you guys can have some better ideas cooked up in the comment section. So name a player who you want to trade for. Sound off with whatever player that is. Keep it somewhat realistic, please, right now. Let's chat T. Higgins here as Higgins struggled against the Rams, and the Bengals need him to bounce back. I'm not freaking out about T. Higgins, but the level of production and the injuries at quarterback and the bad weather all to him. I thought he was better after he was great in week 2. He was a no-show in week 1 and poor in week 3. He's been targeted 28 times. They're converting barely a third of those. That is an unacceptable rate for a player of Higgins' caliber. Yes, there's 2 touchdowns, 110 yards, 3 drops. And those balls were on his number, and he dropped them. They got to get that figured out. So what is your panic level right now over T. Higgins, kind of slash this entire Bengals offense? Scale it for me from 1 to 10 in the comment section right now. I do want to end on a positive note here. My guy Dax Hill has been balling so far this year. He has been very impressive, replacing Jesse Bates. Put this in perspective. Dax Hill is the Bengals team leader in tackles so far this year, in tackles for loss, and he's tied for the team lead in pass breakups. That's not to say he's been perfect, but for a first-year starter, I think you've seen a lot of what the Bengals were hoping to get out of a guy that can play deep, can play in the box, can play nickel corner. He is a very fun piece for the Bengals on defense. I cannot wait to see how he continues to grow this season.